Hey all, here at OS Reviews. A few months back, we did a review on the Amari A800, which was a pretty solid robot vacuum cleaner for under $200. And the way that it cleans a room is random. It just keeps on bouncing across different corners, and after it's run itself for around an hour or so, it will automatically stop. Now today we're taking a look at the updated model called the A980. This is the flagship model from the same company. This time it's a lot smarter. This time it has a system called SLAM, which integrates a camera and also laser systems, which allows it to scan its environment first to then plan its route and prevent itself from going on the same path twice. Other features include a slim profile measuring 2.95 inches. It's also completely flat, unlike many of the other robots which have the sensor built on in, such as from Xiaomi or from the aforementioned iRobot. Usually has a module that pops up, which adds a little bit more thickness, making it a little harder to move across, say, a bed or furniture on the floor. Suction strength is rated at 1600 pascals, has a built-in HEPA filter to remove dust and allergies, and it also offers a companion app like the other smart models, which can connect to Android or iOS to plan its path, and you can see how it visualizes its surroundings in real time. Now, it has a 2600 milliamp hour capacity battery that is claimed to last up to 2 hours before it needs to go back to its charging dock. These specs are all quite good, but they're a little bit less powerful than the aforementioned Puppyroo R6 that we just checked out. And it also has Alexa integration, so once you are connected, you can use the trigger word to tell the robot to begin cleaning your house, and it will do that. Inside of the packaging, we've got access to the instruction manual and also the QR code for the companion app. There's also the remote control. The R6 actually lacks a regular remote since they think that all you need to use is your smartphone, but I do prefer having a second option like this, which is always nice to see. There's the charging dock, which has built-in IR bulbs, which allows the robot to detect it and go back to charge when the battery is low. Now, one of the most peculiar accessories is what looks like a roll of tape. Apparently, this is used to prevent the robot from going over certain boundaries in a room because it will detect this magnetic surface and then stop at a certain edge. I think this is kind of a clumsy implementation, to be perfectly honest. Having one of those IR wall guards seems like a much more high-tech solution, or even using the companion app to block off certain rooms. So I'm not really sure why they're using just magnetic roll. The design of the robot itself retains the same aesthetics as the A800, which is great to see. It's still made out of a tempered glass material on the top, which has a slight carbon fiber texture underneath. Now again, here is the sensor, which is completely flush with the surface of the robot along with the power key. Here's a view of the robot from the edge, so indeed really slim, and it also absorbs a little bit of shock in case it accidentally rams into something, so the robot doesn't break. On the rear here, we have the wheels themselves, which are pretty well padded in a thick layer of rubber. So just like before, we can actually remove this just to clean off any perhaps hair or dust particles that have accumulated on this brush, which essentially is sucking things into this compartment inside. Now there's also a switch here that you can use to manually turn the robot on. And let's remove the dust compartment here, so a pretty typical size, but should be good enough for a few sweeps before you need to swap it out. We pull on the arrow side here basically to flip it open and then dump the dust out. And then there's a separate compartment door for accessing the HEPA filter. Here's a quick size comparison with the older A800 versus the new A980. The design language has been retained, and again, both are made out of the same tempered glass surface on the top. The body is still going to be a little bit larger than the A4S from iLife, which remains one of the most compact designs, but overall the profile in terms of the thickness is still relatively similar. And then back to the Puppyo R6 that we just reviewed. The R6 is going to be a little bit larger, thicker, and bulkier.
Hi, I'm Mary, your cleaning assistant. I am ready now.
So as you can hear, there is a built-in speaker that gives you voice prompts, and the English is actually pretty good. And then the companion application is called the Amari Pro. The cool thing is to share that Wi-Fi information, it's generated a QR code, which we can then put on top of the camera sensor for it to then connect to. So we can simply put the QR code on top of it. It will start to confirm and connect to the Wi-Fi. And here's the main dashboard. It tells us our robot is currently offline. The battery percentage is at 67%. We can tap on the clean button to begin a clean. We can tap on the smart map for it to begin doing a quick scan of the room. And we can also tap on the dock key for it to return to its its charging base and attempt to find it. Under more features, we can do things like change the suction strength of the vacuum to make it more effective. It's going to be a little louder versus quieter, but also not as strong. We can also do an edge cleaning, so it's going to just clean the parameters of a room. We can do a spot cleaning, so it's going to concentrate on one area that might be dirty on the floor. Although one feature that has been disabled on this particular device is the water function, because again, the A980 doesn't have a water tank, it's not a mop. Now under the top settings drawer, we can also do things like schedule a clean, such as it will automatically clean, for example, 1 hour every Tuesday. You can also do things like take a look at the job history in terms of in total how much it's cleaned throughout its lifespan, in addition to do things like access a manual remote control or virtual one for you to move it up, down, left, and right, kind of like a remote control car if you don't want to use the bundled remote control. So after using it for a couple cleans, here are some of my observations. Let's start with the pros. First of all, it has good voice prompts, including one which will tell you if the robot has been suspended in the air.
I am suspended in the air.
So it's actually able to delineate between getting suspended because you're lifting it up and it will pause the cleaning versus say getting stuck or tangled and it will say a different prompt. So the voice prompts are actually smart and they are a notch above some of the other Chinese competitors we've seen. The second good point is the cleaning effectiveness is quite high. It's definitely a more thorough robot than the aforementioned Papio R6 Home that we just reviewed. We saw in that test how this used a diagonal pattern to go back and forth and weave between the carpet, which I'd say was pretty effective in covering all the spots. However, unlike the R6, which would then stop, this thing actually did a second round to really make sure that I got everything by using a different pattern. So if it went from left and right, for example, it would now go up and down to cover the same area 2 times. So it's definitely a more thorough algorithm that they're using. The third pro is the edge cleaning mode I found to be especially useful and also really effective on this model. The Papio R6 sometimes had trouble finding the correct edges. Sometimes it would stop a few inches short of a corner in a room, and as a result, some of the dust wouldn't get picked up. The last pro I'd say would be the application does indeed work when it comes to when you tap on clean. You saw how it was able to visualize the position on a map and kind of draw out what the room looks like to the robot in real time. And once a clean is completed, you'll be able to see it listed as a room under the smart cleaning tab. Once it's finished a clean, you are able to partition different areas of a room. So for example, you can draw a different zone and it will then only clean, for example, in this particular zone. So after it's scanned a room, you don't have to rely on that magnetic tape. Now moving on to some of the weaknesses. One of them would be that the slam sensor on the Amari here is definitely not as fast as the Papio R6. Unlike the R6, which has the sensor mounted on the side and it simply will spin 360 degrees to scan a room and then plan out its path, this robot needs to actually go and experiment by testing out the boundaries of a room and doing a full clean before it's able to recognize what the room looks like. So the process of detecting a room is slower than the R6, which takes just a few seconds, versus on this one, which it has to actually do a full clean, which can take up to 30 minutes for even a small room before it's able to completely understand, what the shape of the room is, and then for you to then use it intelligently the next time. As a follow-up, I would say one potential weakness is because the initial scan can take a little bit longer than you're used to. For example, in that hallway, it had to vacuum for about 30 minutes for it to stop and then record a room. If you get impatient and you turn the robot off because you think that the carpet is already clean, and then you move the robot to a different room and then tap on resume, it doesn't know that you're actually moved into a different room, so that on the map, it continues to draw over portions of the previous room, and then you just get a really weird result. Again, that's one downside of having the camera sensor placed upwards on some of these models compared to on, say, the Papillon R6, which every single time you begin a scan, it will automatically rotate 360 degrees, no matter if you just pause it and resume it, simply to try and know if it's actually started in a different room or not. That's more or less it for our hands-on review of the Amari A980 Smart Robot Vacuum Cleaner. Overall, I would say that it performs quite well when it comes to giving you an effective sweep, really picking up a surprising amount of dust from the carpet surfaces that it's covered, just because it really is very thorough. It also offers, again, one of the most thin profiles on the market, has a really good construction quality as well. Other potential weaknesses would be, I would say, that the smart part, the SLAM sensor, is not quite as optimized or fast as the aforementioned Papillon R6 when it comes to the recognition of a room. Sometimes it will take a little bit longer for it to draw out that environment. Still a good value, I'd say, especially compared to likes of brand names like Robovac. In addition to iRobot, we are competing with other flagship models that also has the SLAM intelligent sensor built on in. With that being said, as this technology ripens and becomes more popular, I would like to see maybe the price point come down even more, just to make it more accessible. And also, I think that the performance here could still be improved a little bit when it comes to the overall recognition speed and accuracy. But overall, as far as being a robot and cleaning well, I think it checks those boxes and also looks quite stylish. So you can check out more details if you are interested in the links down below. But for now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Amari A980 Smart Robot Vacuum Cleaner.